Yo, what is up guys? It's Pedro here, and in today's video I will be bringing you guys my Washington football team 2021 53-man roster projection. There will be some surprise cuts, so make sure you guys stay tuned for that. So if you guys are new, make sure to subscribe for Washington and NFL content. So let's get right into the video. And you guys can ignore that number right here, that cap space number. It's incorrect. But let's get right into the video. And, there's always going to be some players that, I cut that you're going to disagree with. So just let me know down below in the comments why you disagree with me on a certain player. So we're going to have to cut it down to 53 people. And it's going to be tough, but let's go ahead and get started. And, one of the biggest question marks is going to be, how many wide receivers do the Washington football team, keep? That's going to be very interesting. So I'm going to go ahead and cut some of the easy players first. This is easy. Lawrence, I don't think he's going to make the roster. Same thing with Joe Walker. There's going to be some players that I do think can make the practice squad. Like someone like Jonathan Williams, he could be a practice squad candidate at the running back position. Let's see, Tyrone Swoops, I don't think he's going to make it at the tight end position. So, and I want to hear you guys, you don't have to put every single player that you think is going to make the roster, but let me know any, players that you disagree with that I had making the roster. So let's go at the bottom right here so we can get this done quickly. Jalen Jelks, not going to make the roster. Chris Miller, same thing. I don't think he's going to make the roster. Rick Leonard, I don't think he's going to make the roster. Jarrett Patterson, we'll wait a little bit and see on him once we get closer to, the 53-man roster. Daniel Wise, I think he's not going to make the roster. Najee Toron, tackle, could be a practice squad candidate. So we're down to 80 guys. Still got, a long way to go, but we are getting there. So, right here, we see our rookies. I think most of the rookies will make the team, but there will be some that won't. Bo right here, don't think he's going to make it. Justin Phillips will not make it, in my opinion. So, yeah, I think the wide receiver position is going to be very interesting to see how everything turns out. They could keep 6 or they could keep 7, depending on their punt return / kick return situation. I know a lot of people love Steven Montez. I do think he's a practice squad candidate, though. I think they do like him. They're intrigued by him, but I think Kyle Allen, Taylor Heineke, and Ryan Fitzpatrick will all beat him out. But he definitely is a practice squad guy. Torrey is not going to make it. Cole Luke, he actually was on the roster at the end of the last season, so I think he could be another guy that makes the practice squad, but I don't see him making the actual roster. So let's go ahead and go up a little higher. I want to see where Troy Apke is, because I'm going to go ahead and cut him. Lyndon Stevens, don't think he's going to make it. Steven Sims, I'm going to go ahead and cut him now. He's obviously, closer to the end when it comes to cuts. Not at this point. But, right now I'm just going to go ahead and cut him. I don't think he has a really good chance of making this roster. If he has a really good training camp, there's a possibility that he makes the roster. But at this point, I just don't really see him making the roster just because of, the receivers that we added in front of him. Don't think he will end up making the roster. Deion Yelder, that's an intriguing one. I think him and Ricky Seals-Jones will battle it out for that last tight end spot, but I do think Ricky Seals-Jones will win that roster spot. So that means the same thing for Tamarick Hemingway, but it's going to be a really interesting competition between those guys. I'm going to go ahead and cut DeAndre Carter as well. I know a lot of people think he will make the roster, but I have another guy that I think can be our kick returner / punt returner instead of him. Caleb Brantley, don't really see a path for him to make the roster. So we're getting down, closer. We're down to 68 players. So now the players are going to be a lot harder to cut. It's going to be a lot harder, in my opinion, once we, get, closer to the end. David Steinmetz, they kept him on the roster last year. Definitely a practice squad candidate if I think he'll be a practice squad guy if the practice squad, rules stay the same as they were last year. So, like I said, these players right here are getting tougher and tougher to cut. I don't think Lamar Miller is going to make the roster, so I'm going to go and cut him. Same thing with Jared Norris right there. And yes, we finally got to Troy Apke. I'm going to go ahead and cut him. If he has a really great camp, would I be surprised if he was their last cornerback? Not extremely surprised, but I just don't think he will end up making this roster. So let's go a little bit higher. Darryl Roberts, everyone up here, I think, is going to make it. Let's go down the list a little bit more. Heineke's going to make it. Cosme, Adam Humphries, all these guys right here are going to make it. Wes Martin, he definitely has a chance. He's still a young player, a third-year player coming into this season, but he's a previous regime guy. He had a chance to start last year, and this really wasn't great. Would not be surprised if he did make the roster, though, maybe over someone like Keith Ismail or Tyler Larson. So right here, Jordan, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he was a contributor on special teams last year at the linebacker position, but didn't really get any snaps at linebacker, so I'm going to go ahead and cut him. I have them keeping 5 linebackers, but they might keep 6, and that 6th guy could be Norris or Jordan as a special teams guy. So we're at 62 here, so we got 9 more players to cut. So this is getting tough, but I'm going to go ahead and cut Casey Toohill. I just think the other guys that, Ron Rivera drafted 2 7th-round picks this year, and I think they have a better chance of making the roster over him. Isaiah Wright, I know a lot of people like him, but there's a lot better receivers on this roster, in my opinion, than Isaiah Wright. So down to 60 guys, so we still got to cut 7 players. This is getting tough. One thing I forgot to say at the end of the video, and I'm glad I remembered, my prediction is that Landon Collins will start the year on the PUP list. So, that means he's technically not on the roster. I don't think they're going to cut him, but I'm just going to take him off the roster right now because my prediction, I think he will start the year on the PUP list, be out for a few games, and then come in later on the season. It's an Achilles injury. He injured it late October, so that's a very, very hard injury to come back from that quickly. So I don't think he's going to be on the roster opening day. Keith Ismail, that's a tough one for me, but I just don't think he's going to make the roster. But it's going to be down, to him, Wes Martin, and Tyler Larson. But I think Larson, at the end of the day, is going to win that job. It could be 2 out of the 3, but I have them keeping 9 offensive linemen, but it definitely could be 10, especially if they decide to bring in another tackle. So we're at 58. We got to cut 5 more. So sadly, I know a lot of people like Sammis Reyes. I'm going to go ahead and cut Sammis Reyes. He definitely has a chance to make this roster, but right now I'm actually pre-recording this video. This video is recorded on June 23rd. So if he continues to develop, maybe he could make the roster if he has a great training camp and preseason, but I just don't see it right now. And yeah, now we're getting to the tougher guys. We got 4 more players to go ahead and cut. So I'm going to cut Dax Milne. So that kind of shows you the receivers I'm going to have on this roster. The last spot for me, I was debating Milne or Harmon to make the roster, but I'm going to stick with Harmon, but definitely would not be surprised if Milne edged him out if he does have a good camp / preseason. So the receivers I have making the roster: Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, De'Ami Brown, Cam Sims, Adam Humphries, Antonio Gandy Golden, and Kelvin Harmon right there. So that's 56 players in the roster, and sadly, Jarrett Patterson, I just don't have enough information on him yet. We haven't seen him play in training camp or in the preseason, so that's why it's my way too early projections. But him and Peyton Barber, that competition is going to be very interesting because I think, Antonio Gibson has a lot of the skills that Peyton Barber does in terms of the short yardage situations. Was a great goal line back last year. So if Patterson's looking good, would not be surprised if he beat out Peyton Barber and made the roster. So we're getting down to the really, really tough players to gauge if they're going to make the roster or not. Okay, so let's see the last few players who I think will not make the roster. And I do think I'm going to have Danny Johnson as my returner, my punt returner / kick returner. So he will be my 6th cornerback that I keep for the Washington football team. So I do have them keeping 6 cornerbacks, but really, if you really think about it, Danny Johnson isn't going to be used much as a corner. That's just my thought. That's just my thought right there. So looking through here to see any players that we can cut for the final roster spot. We'll go down from, 23. Heineke's going to make it. Darryl Roberts, I do think he will make the roster. Bobby McCain, same thing. Dustin Hopkins, Cosme, Adam Humphries, Gibson, McLaurin. I talked about Johnson. I think David Sharp will make it. They need another tackle right there. Settle's going to make it. Sadiq, Benjamin. So one right here that I do think is interesting. I don't think Greg Stroman is going to make the roster. I'm happy I caught that right there. So I think that is the last roster spot. So we're down to 53 right there. So that is my 53-man roster for you guys. Let me know down below in the comments, what is any players that I cut that you disagreed, or any players that you thought should have gotten cut that I didn't cut. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit that like button. Subscribe if you guys are new, and turn on those notifications so you never miss a video. Peace, guys.